Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, it is the 8th week of 2025, and that means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, www.welikesportspc.com proudly presents to you their podcast tag team champions of the world, the Cleat Geek Mike Valentine, the guy who doesn't have a nickname yet, Ricky Logan, right there. We'll give him one, don't worry about it. And we are the 6, 4, 3 and out guys, sorta, but this is the Sportz Truth. All right, I'll explain why Ricky's here and Mitch is not here in just a second. But before we do that, let's do the walk-up music.
Are you ready? 20 seconds start now. Ten seconds remaining. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A little bit of different music for us today because we got a special host with us. He is Ricky Logan, like I said. I'll tell you exactly who he is and why he's here in just a minute. But let's first go over what we're going to be doing today on the Sportz Truth. Already got people jumping on. Already got people putting messages up. We'll talk to everybody here in just a few moments. There are a few position changes to watch in spring training, and we're going to look at those. Also, the NFL Combine is this weekend. There are stories and there are players to watch, and we'll tell you how to do both. Larry Dolan of the Cleveland Guardians is an owner. He was an owner. Sadly, he passed away. We'll talk about him, his legacy, and about owners in general. We'll look at the future of Greg Popovich with the Spurs. Is the quarterback the most important player on the field? My answer, at least, might surprise you. We'll see what Ricky thinks here in just a few moments. Can the Phoenix Suns even make the playoffs? It's a pitiful thing, isn't it? All these millions and millions of dollars, and they can't even make the playoffs, it doesn't look like. The backcourt betting line, the backfield betting line, and the batting practice betting line that Mitch usually does will be pushed back a week, but we'll get to the next week. The loss of Victor Wembanyama and Chris Bosh and Brandon Ingram, and believe it or not, airplane travel. What do all these things have in common? Ricky and I will explain them to you. Should the NFL ban the tush push? Great question, and we'll answer here in just a little bit. We'll look at fantasy baseball, 1 factor, 2 know, about 3 teams. We'll explain what are the Rams or possibly some other team doing with Matthew Stafford. We will celebrate Black History Month with each segment that we have today. We'll do the Sports Live Truth poll question. We've already done the early morning Sports Truth poll question, so you guys can go to our website. You can go to our X page at the 643 and Out Pod and vote on the first one, and we'll do the second one live here in just a few moments. All right, Ricky, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on here today.
Hey, no problem, no problem. Everyone that's usually on here and says, well, now, wait a minute, he ain't got a mustache. I mean, a little bit of one, but he's got more of a beard and this pretty hair, you know. He's making me look bad being bald and stuff over here. So, yeah.
I'm no Mitch.
We'll see how all that works out as we keep going, buddy. But I don't know. Mitch might want to watch out for his job here. You never know. So Mitch is a little under the weather today. Ricky Logan is one of the editors at www.welikesportspc.com. He recently took over that position, has done fantastic with it. We certainly appreciate him. He's a little more of a Cincinnati guy. Now, I'm from Cincinnati originally, but live out here in Arizona. So today you'll see us do a little bit of an Arizona flavor to our show, and we'll also throw in a few Cincinnati pieces to it as well because Ricky is here with us. So, Rick, tell me what you like to do in your spare time and talk to everybody who have not seen you yet.
Yeah, my name's Ricky Logan. I'm a huge baseball fan. specifically the Cincinnati Reds, but I can, follow every other team out. I like to play music. I play the guitar. I have 2 kids, and that's usually my my day.
Right? Those between the guitar and 2 kids, man, you're busy all day, right?
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Hey, I appreciate it. We'll talk more about Ricky and get more into what he likes and doesn't like and all that stuff as the show progresses. But first, we're going to get into a little NBA, and we're going to do so with the NBA 4-Court Press. All right, Ricky. In about a span of a week, the San Antonio Spurs went from a playoff contender to just trying to finish above 500. And the loss of Victor Wembanyama is pretty big to them. So I'm going to ask you here. Let me get all this up here real quick, and I'll put it up here on the bottom. What does the loss of Victor Wembanyama mean to the Spurs?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, they could go from a playoff team to a lottery team. I mean, he's a generational talent, and he's got potential to be one of the greatest of all time. I mean, he's putting up defensive player of the year numbers in his second year, and to boot, he's phenomenal offensively. So he's everything to that team, and losing him is like, the Bulls losing Jordan for those 2 years.
Yeah. So, but they did get Fox, though, right?
Yes, from my Kings, actually.
Well, I'm sorry about that, sir. I
Yeah.
didn't realize they were your Kings, but that's okay. So I understand, and I know that you understand that the loss of Victor Wembanyama is huge to them, but it's also a big to Victor himself, right? So he's got a blood clot in his shooting shoulder. It's similar, but it's not the same to what Chris Bosh had. As I said in the opening, we're going to do Chris Bosh, Brandon Ingram, and then we're also going to talk about airplane travel. Believe it or not. So yes, he's got the blood clots like what Chris Bosh does. He had Brandon Ingram also had the blood clots. Chris Bosh had to retire. Brandon Ingram came back with a fury. What are you thinking is going to happen here with Victor Wembanyama? What's his prognosis? What have you heard, Ricky? I almost told you Mitch.
Well, the hope is he comes back and just is the same guy he's been. But the fear is you got the Chris Bosh situation. But I mean, he's 7'5", 7'6". Like, he's a huge person, and the airplane travel doesn't help. And he's just a phenomenal basketball player, and losing him just wouldn't be a good thing.
I completely agree. I'm going to show a couple of these comments here. They're all from the same person. Well, we'll get Harrison and all his stuff up here real fast. I got if you were watching last week, Harrison was on there last week. He's my part-time comic relief. He works with me. That's another one of my my people that work with me as well. That's actually one of them's my boss, but we won't go there too much. We'll leave that all alone. So yes, absolutely. The hope is that Victor does not have the same thing as Chris Bosh. You're 100% right. Brandon Ingram came back, and he was able to be just fine. That's of course what they hope for. But as you also alluded to, Victor is huge. It's not like he's a 6'10" or 6'9" guy or anything. He's over 7 feet tall. I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary. I'm a big wrestling guy too. Have you ever seen the Andre the Giant documentary? They show pictures of Andre the Giant basically squished in a little tiny plane. The poor guy just looks so uncomfortable. It's not funny. And they were talking to Chris Bosh about it. Victor has not really said anything per se, but the Spurs actually traveled the most of any team before the All-Star break. Here's an astonishing number for you, Ricky: 37,000 852 miles in an airplane in half a season. I mean, how would you like to be stuck in an airplane for those kind of mileage for half a season?
Yeah, especially if I was that tall.
Right? Yeah, I was gonna say we're normal height, or
Yeah.
so if there's anything normal about me, but we're normal height at least. They had to go on a trip to Paris and back, and the Spurs have had to do quite a number of things just so far this season. And I'm not saying that played a part into it, but if you're that tall and you're cramped up in the plane, like you said, it can't be comfortable, not at all. All right, so also let's talk about Greg Popovich. All right, so Greg Popovich is of course the coach of the Spurs. He is not expected to return, and his future is uncertain. He suffered a stroke back in November. The man is 76 years old. He's just in his 29th year as the head coach of the Spurs. He is the oldest and the longest tenured coach in the NBA. He is the all-time wins leader. He is a five-time NBA champion, a three-time Coach of the Year. So, what do you think he can do with Wembanyama simply based on the fact that he had Tim Duncan, he had David Robinson. So he's had some bigs in the past and has been successful with them. And I think there's a real draw here that he's got to kind of navigate. Is a lot of people want to see what he can do with Wemby, but yet he has to look at his health and stuff as well. So give me your perspective on the difference between him wanting to do something with Wemby and him having to look out for his own health.
I mean, for Popovich, I think he honestly needs to worry about himself first. I mean, he is getting older in age. He is a very established, if not the greatest head coach of all time. You put him up there with some of the greats like Red Auerbach and Phil Jackson. I mean, he's done it all. I mean, he hasn't had the star talent that other teams have had. I mean, yeah, Tony Parker was phenomenal. Manu Ginobili was phenomenal. Tim Duncan's phenomenal. But, he didn't have a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, those kind of guys. Now, Wembanyama can be that guy, and I would love to see what he could do. It's just at his age, the way he is now, are we going to be able to see it? And I just think that with the health issues he had a stroke. It's not easy to come back from. And then you don't know how Wembanyama's going to be when he comes back, or if he can come back. I know it's not rumored or anything, but it's always a possibility. So if everything worked out, I think Popovich would really make Wembanyama one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he has the potential to do it because he's done it before with people who were similar. So I agree with you. I think that it could be done. Anyway, how about that? It could be done. Two more questions here as we deal with the Spurs, and then we're going to jump ahead to another team in the NBA. So, Ricky, if you were Greg Popovich's son, what would you tell him to do?
Oh man, I'd probably say you have nothing else to prove. I mean, yeah, you go win another one, but what else do you have to prove? You're already one of, if not the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I could do that exactly the way you said it, but I understand. I understand that these guys are sports people, and that if they don't have sports in their lives, I mean, how many of them have had sports in their lives and they retired and they turn to gambling or they turn to something else, and it just ruins them. So I would hate to see that happen to Pop, but I also think, like you just said, he's got to worry about his own health. He's got to worry about his family. His loyalty should be to his family and not to the San Antonio Spurs. And hopefully, the Spurs and the Spurs fan base understand both of those things. Lastly, here on the Spurs, Ricky, do you think, and this is the whole question that we've got, it's on our Twitter page. It is We Likes. No, I'm doing the website. So it is at the 643 and out pod is the Twitter spot. That's where we are right now. Let's take a look at this here and see what America has said. 176 views on it so far, and it is split right down the middle. So, Ricky, I will ask you: should the Spurs try to make a playoff run, or should they just tank for a better pick in the NBA draft?
Oh man, I am not a fan of tanking, but with the situation that they have, if you do tank and you do get lucky to get a top 3 through 5 pick,
Mhm.
and if you have to have a new head coach, you could build around that also. So I guess a long-winded answer would be, I guess tank, but I hate to say that.
So you don't like the teams that tank, even though you understand why they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I like to think that competitiveness wins, and
Okay.
that it's just some teams are just better than others. But I also see why you can tank and tank successfully. It's just some teams get stuck in that mindset of tanking all the time, and
Mhm.
you just never see those teams pull forward.
Right. So you're afraid if a team tanks once, they're going to be like, "Hey, we should tank again next year," and then it's, "Hey, we should tank again the next year," and it's just
Yeah,
a
because
cycle that repeats itself.
if you don't get the guy that you want this year, well, you can tank for next year, and they might have a better player.
True. So let me give it to you from a different angle. What about Mitch Johnson? Mitch Johnson is right now the intern coach of the Spurs. And if what you said, you kind of hinted to it a little bit in your answer, I'd like to bring it a little more on the front burner here. We'll turn that burner up and put it right here on the front. What if Popovich does not come back next year, and you're trying to evaluate Mitch Johnson to see if he is the coach in waiting, but yet you tank? That's not fair to Mitch Johnson, is it?
No, it's not. Only because, that guy is coaching for his career. He could be the next Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich. He could be that next guy.
Hmm.
You're not going to find that out. But if they have that mindset that they are going to keep him, this is all internal discussions. If they decide that they are going to keep him and they say, hey, we're going to, maybe not put our best players out the rest of the year, and we want you to be the decision maker for that draft pick. Maybe that's an incentive, but I mean, I don't think you want to have that on your resume as the record for your season.
Right. I completely agree. And I think they're doing him a disservice if they tank. But I understand each situation. I mean, I guess the only way that I would condone them tanking, and of course the NBA does not like that word whatsoever, but yet they still let players not play back to backs and stuff like that. So it's they're talking about both sides of their mouths as far as the NBA goes. But I really do. I think they're doing him a disservice unless they go to him and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and tank. We want a better draft pick. We understand what's going on. We know that you understand what's going on, and we're not going to judge you by what you're doing for the rest of the season. We're either going to leave you as our assistant if Popovich comes back, or we're going to go ahead and promote you and give you a 2 or 3 year contract, and we're going to see what you can do for us." Then I'm okay with it. But as just a team that wants to tank so that they can get a better draft pick, I'm with you. I like the competition. I do think that wins out in the end, and the younger players that you've got on the roster now will learn from playing that way and being competitive. All right, so Mitch, where are you at as far as the NBA? You mentioned your team earlier. Who's your team, Mitch? Or Mitch? See, I knew I was going to do it at least once. Who's your team, Logan?
Well, I'm from the Sacramento area. I was born there, so I've always been a Kings fan. My family's all Kings fans. Uh, I'm kind of partial towards the Pacers a little bit because I live in Indiana, but I mean, I'm not a diehard of any team, so I can, you know, get around to all of them.
Excuse me. Well, the reason why I'm asking is because, speaking of the playoffs, man, I'm already out on the NBA because of the disappointment of the Phoenix Suns. Most people who are listening to the podcast probably know that myself, Mitch live in Phoenix. Ricky, he lives in Indiana, not too far outside of Cincinnati. That's why he's the big Reds fan, Bengals fan, and all that, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. But I don't even know if the Suns can even be a lottery pick or not. What do you think about the Suns and their chances in the playoffs and how they performed this season?
The sad part about the Suns is they have so much talent, and it just seems like Kevin Durant's averaging almost 27 points a game. Devin Booker's averaging almost 7 assists a game, and they've got two guys averaging 25 or more. It seems like their defense just lets them down.
They don't have
Eh,
any defense. It's not.
yeah, like
They don't have it.
they're too good to miss the playoffs, but they're also too good to not get a lottery pick. Like they could be, that 15th pick or 18th pick, and that's not a good place to be, especially when a lot of the recent draft class in the NBA have been really top heavy. And it's just, Kevin Durant's getting older. Devin Booker's just phenomenal. I'm a huge Booker fan.
I
But
wouldn't.
other
I
than that, I
wouldn't
mean,
go
they just,
phenomenal, but
well, he's took a little bit of a step back this year, but he's still what, 25?
I don't know. He is pretty young. But the other part of this equation too, and I know this isn't really in our notes, and I wasn't going to say anything unless you brought it up. But since Ricky brings it up, let's go here, Ricky. Booker is in line for the 3-year max next, and the 3-year max is like $70 million a year. And this is the NBA's way of saying, okay, the teams that get a good person can keep the good person, but if they're gonna, if they want to keep them, they're gonna have to overpay them, basically. I don't think I want to pay Booker 3 years at almost $70 million a year. It won't be. It's not this year. It'll be after the following season. So um, I don't know. I would almost be ready to just blow this team up and trade away Kevin Durant to whoever will take him, because you can still get some value out of him. You probably won't get the same value that you did when you traded for him and everything that they gave up to get him. And then you can trade away Booker with another year, and then they may not have to pay him quite that much, kind of like what the Mavericks did with Luca. It's I know it's terrible to say it, and a lot of people don't really understand it, but they traded Luca away because of the money that he can command with that contract. So I don't know. The Spurs may take the same road and do the same thing. Well, or I'm sorry, not the Spurs. The Suns may do the same thing, but on the same road. So we'll see when all this is said and done. I I'm with you. I like Booker, but I want to ask you about the new owner, Matt Ishbia. Do you think he had like big check syndrome, and he just, okay, now I bought an NBA team. All right, I've already got Kevin Booker. Now I'm going to go out and get Bradley Beal. I'm going to write that check. We're going to bring Bradley Beal in. He's going to be amazing. He's going to take us to the playoffs, right? And then I'm going to go out and I'm going to trade half my team for Kevin Durant and then pay him a boatload of money too, and just write some more checks. Do you think Matt Ishbia got, we'll call it, new owner syndrome?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think if he would have just did a little bit more research, he would have saw that Bradley Beal and John Wall never worked out together, and what makes him think that Bradley Beal and other guys would work out together. I'm not hating on Bradley Beal. I just,
Okay, you can.
he's not that complimentary player that you need. And then you go out and you get an aging Kevin Durant, which he's still amazing. It's just he's not, Oklahoma City Kevin Durant anymore.
Right.
I think if he would have maybe spent money on different players or, consider draft capital and maybe not just throw every draft pick like the way the Rams did yeah, they got a Super Bowl, but they traded every draft pick and it sent them back 3 years.
Yep.
But I think if he would have done a little bit more research, maybe sat down a little bit, and I don't know. I think he did get big check syndrome.
Well, the problem with the Suns is they don't have any draft picks, and they're not very good. I mean, at least the Rams were good when they traded away all their draft picks. They had a team to show for it, right? We all knew they were going to be competitive. But Ricky, I do want to not bash on the Suns completely, shouldn't this have worked? I mean, on paper, shouldn't Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Booker have worked and gotten them to at least over 500? And right now they're 3 games under, and I know they're playing right at the moment. I have no idea what's well. They're probably not playing right this minute, but they play later on tonight.
In theory, it should work. I mean, you got two guys averaging 26 or more points a game. Bradley Beal's averaging almost 18, and it just there's no defense. Like if Kevin Durant averages 2 more points a game, they might win a couple more games. But that's asking a lot for a 37-year-old player. And then you run the offense through him, and you got Devin Booker. It should work on paper. On paper, they should be a top 5 team,
right? But they're in the bottom 5 or close there. I mean, they're not in the playoffs right now. As it stands right now, they are not in the playoffs. And as it stands right now, 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in the first quarter. They're trailing by 2 to the Memphis Grizzlies as well. So they are playing right now. We'll keep you updated on that score as we continue to go along. Here's this one. I want to throw this at you real quick. What if the Suns do make it to the playoffs? And because they've got the big 3 that we were just talking about, that's Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. What if they get to the playoffs and they just flip a switch? Do you think that's possible? They can get in the playoffs and then flip a switch and become a better defensive team, and they've got the offense. Can they do it, Ricky?
I think they could. I mean, they on paper, if they can get in, I think they can make a run. I don't think the West is really that strong. I mean, the Lakers with Luka, that's a game changer. The Warriors are kind of getting hot.
Mm-hmm.
If they could get in, I think they could maybe do what they did. What was it, 2021? When they made the finals,
right?
Because they weren't a top seed then, right? They were closer towards like a 6 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if
so
they could get in, they could make a run.
Right. So let me give you some Sun stats. All right. So they're currently the 11th seed in the West. They're 2-8 in their last 10, but they're only 4 games out to the number 6 spot, even though they're in the 11th spot. That's how close all those teams are between point A and point B. They're 16-11 at home. They're 7-4 in their division, so winning records in both of those. And they're 1 game under in their conference at 17-18. And to be really honest, Ricky, here's why I brought this whole thing up. I'm going to stare right in this camera and I'm going to say this one because I got a little conviction on this one. I hope this happens. I hope that the Suns get in the playoffs and make a big run and knock off some teams that nobody thought they were going to knock off. And not because I'm a big Suns fan. That's not the reason why I want to do this. I want to prove to everybody out there who loves the NBA that your regular season means absolutely nothing. They're all, 75% of the teams make the playoffs anyway. So what the heck does it matter? You can get in the playoffs, you can make a big run, you can knock off some teams, and you can be right there. And it's not because I'm some huge Suns fan, even though I would get behind them if they do start winning. I just want the NBA to look at their regular season and know it's crap. Any comments?
I agree. I mean, they put all this focus on the in-season tournament that they have. They focus on whatever the All-Star game was this year.
Yeah,
I don't know what that was.
Right.
And and I just think, there's 15 teams in each conference, and 10 get in.
Right. Way too many.
Yeah. And I think any team with a competent organization could fight for a top 10 seed.
Mm-hmm. I certainly agree with you, but the Suns have now come back. Minute 18 left in the first quarter, and they're up by 5 all of a sudden, 34-29 in Memphis. So, again, we'll keep you updated on that. I said we're going to celebrate Black History Month. We're going to do it with the NBA. I'm going to give you some stats, Ricky, and let's test your NBA knowledge. I love doing this before Mitch. He looks at me all cross-eyed when I do this to him every time. We'll see how Ricky Logan handles the pressure. All right. He led the league in rebounds. He's the shortest player to ever. I'm sorry. He's the shortest player to ever lead. Wow, I can't even talk. He is the shortest player to ever lead the league in rebounds. You get that now? He's really short, but yet he's the shortest one to ever lead the league in rebounds. He also has another record. He has the most free throws made in a half. He has a he has the record 19. Are you googling that right now? Do I have to smack you? Because I will
No,
come
you're good.
on the camera.
I was just confirming I had it right.
Okay, sure. His birthday was February 20th. He is one of 4 NBA players to have the following: 20,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 4,000 assists. Ricky Logan, knowing that it's Black History Month and that narrows it down some for you, who are we talking about?
The legendary Charles Barkley.
Yeah, Charles Barkley. That's 100% right. You Google master, you.
Same birthday as my wife. That's how I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. We didn't know that going in, so we know it now, bud. All right, we're going to jump into our NFL 4-down territory here. Let's do that. Sometimes the volume buttons are not easy to hit on this thing, but I missed it like twice. All right, Ricky, we're going to start with the New York Jets here real quick, all right? And then we'll get into New York Jets. We'll get into Matt Stafford. We'll look at the tush push. We'll look at the NFL Combine storylines. And then we will look at the Cincinnati Bengals as well. Yeah, okay. So, again, comic relief over here is jumping on me for not knowing your wife's birthday. How dare me? So glad you got a kick out of that. Okay. Anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and jump into our NFL talk here. Let me get the NFL thing popped up at the bottom of the page. Again, this is NFL 4-down territory. We'll talk about 4 different things. Actually, today we're going to talk about 5 different things because I wanted to throw a Cincinnati related topic in there. Now that we have Ricky, when I wrote this yesterday, I didn't realize that Mitch wasn't going to be here. So instead of rewriting the whole thing, we're going to do it just like we were, and then I'll throw in one more. So let's talk about the Jets first. They've drafted well, but they don't have a quarterback. This is our first down of our NFL 4-down territory. So, Ricky, is the quarterback the most important player on the field?
Yes and no.
Oh,
Statistically, yes. The most important, I think, is your blindside tackle.
why is
But it's just let me look at the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers really wasn't that bad this year. It was just he has no protection.
All right. So no matter how, okay. So let's put it this way: it's no matter how good your quarterback is, it's hard for him to complete a pass while he's lying on his back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean the linemen I think are the most important people on the field, and that's why it's a team, right? I mean it's a football team. It's not a singular thing. Um, yeah, Ricky, that's a cop out. That's right. So he's really having a little too much fun where he's at right at the moment. So yeah, I understand what you mean by yes and no. I mean I don't think you can win in this league if you in the NFL if you don't have a at least a serviceable quarterback. I mean, but you had Trent Dilfer, took a team to the Super Bowl. You had let's see, what was the Philadelphia quarterback? His name slips my mind. That took him
Nick
to the
Foles.
Nick Foles. Thank you.
And
He
Carson
actually
Wentz.
won. Yeah, Carson Wentz. So there's been some quarterbacks that have been able to take their teams to the Super Bowl that weren't fantastic quarterbacks. But overall, I think you have to have at least above serviceable as far as your quarterback goes. So what do you think about where your quarterback should be on the field as far as like where he ranks?
Well, I think your quarterback should be your number one leader. That's without a doubt. Now, whether or not he's your best player is, depending on how your organization's ran. I mean, you can look at Kansas City. I think if they had any other quarterback, they probably wouldn't be anywhere near as good as they are. They'd maybe make the playoffs, but I don't think they'd be anywhere near contending for a Super Bowl year in and year out.
I think the refs help them a lot. But,
Absolutely.
Well, the NFL wants them to win. So, I've said this before on this show. It's good to have someone to hate in your league, whether it be the Yankees or the Chiefs or whoever it's going to be. I really couldn't think of even in NASCAR. Dale Earnhardt was the guy. You either loved that guy or hated that guy, right? And it's good to have someone in your league like that. It creates controversy. It makes people talk. It gives you and I, these we'll call ourselves pundits on a podcast, right? It gives us something to talk about. So it's good to have those kinds of things. If you were the New York Jets, Ricky, would you trade up to get either Ward or Sanders in the draft?
I don't think that those two are a player worth trading up for. I think that in the short term, yeah, but are they going to have a New York Giants situation where they took Daniel Jones thinking that he was going to be the answer, and then they sign him, and then the same year they cut him? Mm-hmm. And I don't think Ward or Shedeur Sanders are Daniel Jones. I just don't think they're going to be that quarterback that's going to be, that guy. I think the better of the two would be Cam Ward. I feel like he's got more upside. I'm not sold on Sanders. I just only because in college they never won anything. But I think they have other needs they got to address too. So
Jets are pretty stacked though. They've got a really good defense. So how about this? Would you agree that they're only a quarterback away from at least making the playoffs?
It's pretty close, yeah. I'd say that.
I mean, especially in that league, right? The only real team in that league's Buffalo. So if you beat them one out of the two times you got to play them, then yeah, I would think you have a good shot. There's our buddy Sirhan. He is telling us good evening. Appreciate you tuning in, buddy. Thank you very much for coming on with us. He is also one of our great writers at www.weLikeSportsPC.com, just like Ricky Logan is. Ricky writes Reds. Sirhan writes Bengal stuff for us, and he does a fantastic job on the boxing end for us.
I love his boxing stuff.
I know it, man. He is excellent at all of that. And he also has his own podcast, Sirhan on X. So tune into that. We usually try to retweet it here on our spot as well at the 643 and out pod. So then, Ricky, you would stay at 7, and if you stay at 7, would you sign Sam Darnold? Would you sign Russell Wilson? Would you sign Kirk Cousins? What would you do if you stay at 7 in the quarterback situation?
Oh man,
I'm sorry, if you're the New York Jets.
Yeah. Honestly, there's really a chance that one of those two quarterbacks could fall to 7. But I did see today that the Titans were talking about teams were interested in trading up to the number 1 spot. I would probably see if I could get Darnold or Wilson on a 1 or 2 year deal, and then maybe see what the free agent class looks like in a year or 2.
Okay, I'm not arguing with that standpoint. What about I heard this a couple days ago. I don't know how true this really is, or he's just trying to get signed again. But I did, and you threw his name out there earlier. I heard Daniel Jones's name get tossed out there a couple times too, saying that he may try to go to the other New York team and all this, because if that's what they want to do, if they want to spend a small amount of money, and like you're saying, maybe they want to shore up a couple other spots, then you could sign Daniel Jones to a 1 year, basically like a prove it type contract, and then go out and address some of your other spots that you got holes at. So I'm not saying it's a futile attempt. You just got to get it right with everybody else if that's what you're going to do. All right. So would you? This is going to lead us into some of our other stuff here. Would you trade for Matt Stafford if you're the New York Jets, Ricky?
If I had to choose between trading for him, or one of those three guys, I would probably lean towards Stafford because he is established. The injury history concerns me a little bit, but it wouldn't be the worst idea if you're not giving up a lot.
Yeah, but I think you're going to have to give up a lot, and we're going to talk about the contract he's going to want here in just a minute. It's going to take us into our second down here. But before we get to second down, we are going to do our Sports Live Truth poll question. And what that means is we're going to put it up on our Twitter account at the 643 and Out Pod live right now, where you can vote on this in real time. And here is our hashtag Sports Live Truth poll question. How many of these quarterbacks will start in the NFL Week 1 in 2025? And here are your choices. You give us a number: Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, or Kirk Cousins. So 1 out of the 4, 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 4, or 4 out of the 4. And it is up right now on our Twitter spot. As I said, it is the 643 and Out Pod. It is right there for you to see. Thank you for putting us up there. We follow roughly 6,300 people, and they follow us. It's a pretty good ratio right there. And of those people, we are the fourth highest podcast in that group of 6,300 or so people. So we thank you for doing that. I'm sure it's all because of Ricky and his beautiful hair up here. But we are trending right now, and we appreciate you for it. So you can get on our X page and see us. Oh, looky there. We're right there. As it does say, we are live, has that nice pink circle around there and everything else. So let's jump into this. Again, Ricky, I'm going to ask you the Sports Live Truth Twitter poll question. How many of those quarterbacks will start Week 1 next season in the NFL? Let me give you the 4. So Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. How many of those 4 quarterbacks do you think will start Week 1 in the NFL?
My heart tells me 3, but my gut's telling me 2. I
Okay.
think
Well, tell me
most likely, I think it would be Sam Darnold and Russell Wilson will be the 2.
And are you on the fence about Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins?
Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure if he's going to play next year. I think he's leaning towards retirement. No sources.
No sources. Listen, I got to throw that out there. No sources. I think Aaron Rodgers should have retired a couple, 3 years ago, but that's just my opinion. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers guy, so I've bashed him enough on this show. I won't do it today.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah, I know.
He's from the county, one county north of where I'm from, so I have a little bit of ties to him.
Okay. Well, okay. So because you're one county over, you think you have some ties to him, but all right.
We're homers.
Okay. All right. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers has your number, sir. He'll be
He
calling.
has no idea who I am.
All right. Harrison, I see you. I'm not posting that one up there, but I see your comment, buddy. So let's talk about Matt Stafford here. Matt Stafford, do you sign him? Do you swap him? Do you keep him? Do you trade him? That is our NFL second down of our NFL 4 down territory. So let's give you some stats on Matthew Stafford, Ricky, and then you can kind of decide, and we'll talk about this together here. So Matthew Stafford has a 2025 cap hit of $49.7 million. Man, that's a lot. His 2026 cap hit's even worse, $53.7 million. And then he is also he is going to get a bonus in March of another $4 million. Looking at him specifically, he's 37 years old, his 16th NFL season. So here's my question, knowing all of that, Ricky, are the Rams smart in shopping him around? I'm sure you know what they're doing. They basically gave his agent the ability to go, okay, see what he's worth. Let's talk to some other teams. Let's see what they're willing to give the Rams. Let's do all this back and forth. And they're not really shopping him, but they are shopping him all at the same time. We'll talk about that a little more as this goes on. But knowing everything that I just told you about his age, about his cap hit, and everything else, are the Rams smart in shopping him? Because that's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you could get at least a second round pick, maybe a second and a third to get rid of that cap hit, you'd be executive of the year. That being said, he's still a very serviceable, if not above league average quarterback that just, 3 seasons ago won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if a team is in a similar situation that the Rams were in when they traded for him, I think that'd be a perfect situation.
And when you see me turn like this, it means I'm getting on the other computer. So I got a phone. I got the first laptop. I've got the soundboard in front of me over here. I've got the second laptop over there. The microphone's over here where you can't see it, but we got everything going on right at the moment. So I'm trying to remember who the Rams' backup quarterback is because I saw it yesterday and I recognized the name. Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? Yeah, it is. It's Jimmy
Yeah.
Garoppolo. I don't need to look it up. Yeah, every once in a while. Every once in a while.
Still works.
Here up there. It does. It still works. So I heard yesterday that the Rams are actually okay. If something happens with Stafford and they can get something good out of him, they're okay to pivot to Garoppolo, and they think they're all right. As a Rams fan, would you be okay getting rid of Matt Stafford and pivoting to Garoppolo?
That's hard because that technically is a downgrade, but Jimmy Garoppolo, 5 years ago had the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good game manager quarterback. If you could have a solid, receiving core, a decent defense, he could get you there. It's just, are you going to stick with him in the long term afterwards is the main concern that I would have as a Rams fan.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I mean, serviceable, right? We said that earlier when we were talking about quarterbacks. Garoppolo was serviceable. He's not top 10. I do think Stafford's in the top 10. But so you'd be trading a top 10 quarterback for a serviceable quarterback, but you'd also be losing that huge cap hit, and you'd be gaining. You said a second and a third round. I think the Rams are going to have to get first and a third, or a second this year and a second next year, or a little bit more than what you were throwing out there. I do. I think they're going to want that. So with all this stuff going on, the teams will know his value, and they'll know what he wants. The Rams will know his value and what he wants, and then Stafford's camp is going to know what they can get. So this kind of benefits everyone. And what I was hearing anyway, I was doing some research late last night. So Stafford basically has 49 in this upcoming season. He has 53 the next, and he wants 2 more years at roughly $50 million. So he wants a 4-year, $200 million contract. Ricky, would you make a 4-year, $200 million commitment to Matthew Stafford?
Not a chance. And the only reason is when Matt Ryan left the Falcons, there was no signs of him losing it. And then all of a sudden he lost it. He went dead arm and then he was done.
Right.
And he didn't have anywhere near the injury history that Stafford had.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking a 37-year-old quarterback to be in their 4th year at age 41 to make $50 million, annual average.
Right.
That's just a recipe for disaster.
I agree. So I don't have a problem with the Rams doing what they're doing right now. A lot of it seems like a lot of people in the sports world have a huge problem with it, the way it's going about. But I don't. So we're going to play a game, Ricky. I'm going to let you tell me the answers. We're going to rattle through these pretty quick. I believe I've got 7 teams here. So it's going to be, and I'm going to put this up here on the screen as well. Almost forgot, but I got these, I'm watching watching all these people throwing comments up there, which we certainly appreciate. So here it is. Should blank team trade for Matthew Stafford? I'm going to fill in the blanks. You tell me yes, they should, or no, they shouldn't. You ready, buddy?
All right.
All right. Should the Titans trade for Matthew Stafford?
No.
Should the Browns? Oh, should the Browns trade for Matthew Stafford?
Yeah.
Even though they've got this crazy quarterback they owe a ton of money to, you're going to get another quarterback that you owe a ton of money to?
It's the Browns' way.
It's the Browns' way.
They'd probably trade Myles Garrett for him.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. That's the Browns' way. You're right. I can't even argue. How about the Las Vegas Raiders? Should they trade for Matthew Stafford?
That wouldn't be a bad move in my opinion. I'd say yeah.
All right. I believe you said. Well, I can't remember what you said. That's been 10 minutes ago, man. That's up here. So what about the Jets? Well, should the Jets trade for Matthew Stafford?
If Aaron Rodgers is completely off the books, I would say that wouldn't be a bad trade.
Okay. I got 4 more teams for you. The Vikings. Should the Vikings trade for Matt Stafford?
I would say no.
Okay. So would you rather them sign Kirk Cousins or would you rather them give J.J. McCarthy the chance?
I would give McCarthy the job,
Okay.
or at least see what he can do.
What about the New York Giants? Should they trade for Matthew Stafford?
What do they have? The second pick?
I don't have it up. I don't know why you
They have
asked
the
me.
third pick.
Third.
If I'm giving up if I'm giving up the third pick, I would say no. If I'm giving up a future first, I'd say yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting take. No, I don't. I'm going to jump in on this one because I don't think the Giants should do this whatsoever. The Giants need a whole lot more than a quarterback. I don't think Matthew Stafford is going to get them anywhere in the next 4 years. You're going to pay this guy $50 million a year for what? I mean, it's not going to get you a championship. It's not going to get you in the playoffs. I would personally, if I was the Giants, I think they're too far away. I think a team that is a quarterback away makes this trade, not a team that is 10 players away. So that brings me to my last 2 here. I set this up a little pretty nice here. I didn't even realize I was doing it. What about the Dolphins? Should the Dolphins trade for Matthew Stafford?
They have a very bad backup quarterback situation. Tua's injury history is
quarterback situation.
Yeah, I was about to say Tua's injury history is very concerning. And 1 or 2 more concussions, and that could be the end of it. And that's not even talking football.
Right, and we're not talking bad about the guy. It's just the fact.
Yeah, I love Tua. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's a good person. It's just, I think he plays a little too aggressively on the run game, and that's detrimental to who he is. But it's also the most harmful thing to who he is too. So, yeah, if you could make a trade and maybe get a second round pick and Tyreek Hill, that wouldn't be horrible.
Okay.
Because then that would give the Dolphins a quarterback, and then maybe you could get a cap clearance to sign another guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if T. Higgins becomes available.
Well, now stop it, man. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but they're in cap purgatory, man. They don't have hardly any cap space, so it's going to be hard enough for them to sign Stafford. They're going to have to trade somebody away with some money. So on the Rams side of this one, would you trade for Tua to trade off Matthew Stafford and maybe Tua and a second round pick, and I'll give you Matthew Stafford?
That wouldn't be terrible. And I think Miami's probably had that discussion internally about the future. They're never going to say it publicly, but I think there is that concern. So it wouldn't be the worst idea to entertain it.
And here's my wild card team. I if I'm this team, I have already been on the phone, and to be honest with you, I don't like this team because they're in the wrong division for me as a Bengals fan, just as you are. But I think this team is a quarterback away, and they've been a quarterback away since Ben Roethlisberger. man, if I was the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would I would throw Pickens at him, and like I'll give you Pickens and a first round pick. That way now you can trade Cooper Cup like you want, still have a second receiver. I would do pretty much anything I needed to get Matthew Stafford in the steel curtain. In it's not called I don't think it's called Heinz Field anymore, but to get him in Pittsburgh and put him behind that line.
Acrisure.
Is that what it's called now?
Yeah.
I mean,
On the Rams' perspective, if that could happen, if you have Garoppolo with Puka Nacua and Pickens, and I think the Steelers have a top 20 pick, like that would be a really good trade for both sides.
yeah, it would give Pittsburgh what they need, right? Because they're truly a quarterback away. I really believe that, even though I don't like them. Trying to be objective here, I think that they're just a quarterback away. And then you've got to give the Rams something. And we all know they want to trade Cooper Cup. They've made it public, so they could get Pickens. And I know Pittsburgh's not real thrilled with some of the things that Pickens did towards the end of the season. So I'm like you. I think it could help everyone if they would do something like that. All right, Ricky, let's talk a little bit more about Ricky Logan here. So I know you live in Indiana. You got 2 kids, a wife. So pets?
I don't have anything at the moment. I live in a tiny little apartment, so there's not much room for anything.
All right, you got 2 kids. That's pets enough for you, right?
Yeah, they're enough. 4 and 7, man. They're wild.
Oh man, I see pictures of your little one all the time. Now you just had one that had a birthday just not long ago, right?
Yeah, his birthday is the day before my wife's birthday. His
I
is
was
the
going to say,
19th.
so, him and your wife have got to be close with each other.
Yeah, we were in the hospital together.
All right, that's cool. So like I say, Ricky is part of our family at www.welikesportspc.com. I like to call it our roster, like it's a sports roster. So we are adding a bunch of new writers and stuff. I know Ricky has seen it because he is one of the editors for us, and he writes his own stuff as well. We're really pumping out some new wrestling stuff. We're going to start having Fantasy Friday as well. Ricky doesn't know this one yet because I've worked it out with another writer. But we're going to start having fantasy stuff every Friday, and we'll get to some fantasy baseball stuff here in just a moment. Ricky, let's look at our third down of our NFL 4-down territory tonight, and that's the tush push. Should the play be banned by the NFL? Should it be modified by the NFL? Do you think it should? Either one of those should happen.
I don't think so because it only works for Philadelphia. You don't ever see like the NFL is such a copycat league. You'd think every team would be running that play, but they're the only ones running it, and they run it really. I think they have like an 80% success rate. Like it's
Almost
high.
perfection.
Yeah, it's hard to modify something that is only a cheat code for one team. Like you would think maybe like the Colts with Anthony Richardson, with how big and strong he is, he would be the perfect example to run that play.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't run it. So I don't want to see it banned. I'm not a Philadelphia fan, so it's like I would love to see it banned just for that sake. But to be objective, it's not fair to ban something that one team's using.
So then are the other teams just pissed that they can't stop it? Is that what this is?
That's what it seems like. I did see that somebody, an anonymous owner or GM, submitted a claim to have the rule to ban it or something.
Yeah, it was Green Bay.
I figured.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know that for certain, but, from everything else that I was reading, it's Green Bay. And then Sean Malone with the Buffalo Bills is trying to say that, because everybody gets so low when you're pushing people from behind that it's a health hazard. Now,
I understand the safety concerns for it.
Right. And I do understand that. And the NFL has been quick to ban, we don't even have the right kickoffs anymore. You can't touch the quarterback anymore. They've done a lot of things for the safety end of it. And I think maybe that's the angle that Buffalo is trying to take to get it banned as well. So I'll ask you this, and, we won't spend a whole lot of time on this because it's not even, we're just talking about it. And the only reason this even came up is because we've got the combine and all the owners are getting together and, they're like a bunch of children in the stands and they're just squabbling about everything. Right. So We haven't even got to the owners' meetings or anything like that yet, where this stuff will actually be voted on. But I wanted to talk about it a little bit here. So, do you think it gives Philly an unfair advantage?
I don't know about unfair because there was 24 other teams that could have drafted Jalen Hurts and 29 other teams that could have hired Sirianni as a head coach out of Indianapolis. But it does help that your quarterback can squat like 800 pounds and
Yeah.
you can get that low. But I don't want to call it unfair. I just think it's a perfect situation for what they have.
Okay. So we're going to go for it here on fourth down. All right. And we're going to do our, be next to the last one. It's usually our last one, but we're going to throw a Bengals one in here at the end and we'll do that. Our NFL combine stories will be our fourth down here in the NFL four down territory. Will teams see Travis Hunter as a wide receiver one, a cornerback one, or both, Ricky?
I think teams are leaning towards wide receiver one. I'm not sure if he would want to play both. I think it would be interesting, but I think that would be a cool move. But I think they're leaning towards wide receiver one.
So do you really think there would be a team that would spend that much money on him and then still be able to allow him to be the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL?
I think depending on where he went, like I think if he went to Cleveland, I think Cleveland would probably lean towards that. It
We've
would save
already
them money.
well, we've already established the fact that Cleveland screws up everything. So yeah, they'd probably do that. This is
Because
a
that
different
was
sport, though. The NFL is a hard nosed. I mean, smash every play. I mean, don't get me wrong. Baseball is it's a contact sport as well because people would tell me all the time, oh, it's not a contact. Let me hit you with a baseball at 95 and see how it feels. Right?
I mean,
It's
yeah,
still a
Mike Trout's a
contact sport.
perfect example for that.
Right? Absolutely. So, I just thought it was interesting. I honestly think that a lot of them are leaning towards cornerback one with him, just because I think he's a better fit as a cornerback, and I think a lot more teams need a cornerback than they do a receiver. There's a lot of receivers out there, but there are very few cornerbacks. So Arizona has a receiver. Speaking of receivers, uh, McMillan. Can he lock up wide receiver one in this combine? And if he can, will he?
Uh, I think he should. That would be the smart thing to do.
Well, I mean, of
I
course, it'll be
think,
the smart thing. He's got to run a fast 40 time. I mean, that's my opinion. What about yours? I think he has to run a fast 40 time. And if he does that, and he can prove to the scouts and the other teams that he can not only run routes really well, which we already know he can, that he can go up and get the 50-50 balls, which he's fantastic at. If he
yeah,
can run, he's got it. What do you think?
yeah. I see a little bit of Terry McLaurin in him. Like he
Ooh.
is that go getter. So I think if he can prove he's got the speed, I think there's no doubt he could be a wide receiver one.
How much stronger does this defensive class actually make the offensive class? Because last year there wasn't a defensive guy taken in the first 10 picks. I don't think there was a defensive guy taken until like the 15th or 16th pick last year. Everybody was offense. So because we've got a lot more defense, how does that balance things out, and how does that get all these scouts and GMs and stuff looking at this combine a little differently, Rick?
I think that with the defensive guys that are out there, more teams won't be willing to trade out. So I think that would give teams later in the order, like a 10th pick or a 12th pick, to get that really solid offensive guy, just because of that strong defensive player at the front, like that the edge rusher from Penn State. Like he's
Hmm.
going to be top 5 pick, and that could slide. Depending on who goes where, that could see someone like Sanders or Ward fall out of the top 5. I doubt it, but it's always a possibility.
All right. And then we were talking about this on before we went on the air. we'll give you a little breaking news here. It's kind of sort of breaking. It's only people are just kind of rumoring it right at the moment, but it does seem to be catching on, and it's getting some wind, getting some waves here. So it looks like Travis Kelsey is actually going to come back and play the last season of his contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll throw that out there before I ask you this, Ricky. Are you going to be watching the combine this weekend, buddy?
I might throw it on. I'm not going to be heavily invested in it, but I think there are some storylines. I know Sanders isn't going to throw. I'm not sure if Cam Ward's going to throw, but I think Travis Hunter's got a lot to prove to see what position he's going to play or both. And I don't know. I just think there are some storylines to keep an eye on.
All right, I'm with you. How about this then? As we close this part of it out, we'll jump into our Cincinnati Bengal question here, and then we'll go to MLB for the end of our show tonight. Who are you watching in the combine? I mean, who's the guy or one or two guys that if you see them come on the screen, you'll stop for a second. You know, maybe you've got it on mute in the background or whatever. When you see that guy pop on the screen, you're like, oh, I want to see what he's going to do, and you'll click that remote button and be like, okay, let's watch this for a second. Who's that guy?
Honestly, I'd say if Cam Ward's going to be on there, I want to see him throw. Just because I'm a Miami Hurricane fan, so I liked watching him play. He's a very underrated pocket presence, but he also has that ability to get out of the pocket too. Um, I want to see what he can do on like the shuttles and stuff. I want to see him run.
Okay. I mean, Ward, to me, the reason why you would pick Ward in that top, I don't know, what, 5 or 6, if he drops all the way down to, to the Raiders, I believe they have the 7th pick. His accuracy is crazy. I mean, he has something like, I think, seven interceptions and 30 some odd touchdowns or whatever. That's a really good ratio. Now, whether he was playing the same kind of competition that he will in the NFL is a little bit different, but I see what you're saying about that. I got 2 guys, Ricky. One is a local guy and one's an Ohio State guy because, again, um, I'm a Buckeye guy. So, I spent a lot of my years in Cincinnati, Ohio, or right outside of it in a small town called Hillsboro. So, um, I want to watch. I want to watch Josh Simmons. He tore his knee up. He was going to be a first round pick by far. Now he's coming back from that injury. I want to see what he can do at the combine. He's supposed to be there. He's a guy who can really prove himself and can really go up draft boards. And the other guy, he's the local product here for us at Arizona. Man, I love Cam Scatterboo. I just want to see him run somebody over. Truck Rick Eisner.
He reminds me so much of like a stronger Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
Like the team that gets him is going to be lucky.
Cincinnati Bengals are, so that's what's going to happen.
That would be that would be good.
I think so, but he probably won't go into the 2nd or 3rd round, which is kind of sad. But I really like his running style, and I like him as a person as well here with Arizona State. Let's throw a Bengals thing in at the end before we move on to MLB. Now, once we get to MLB, we're going to look at the Cleveland Guardians and their owner who just passed away. There's a few people in MLB who are changing positions, and we'll talk about those. We will also talk about some fantasy baseball stuff. And then we're going to end the show on a Reds note because we're going to talk about how we don't want the Cincinnati Reds to become the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll explain what we mean by that here at the end of the show. So, Ricky, can the Bengals sign Chase like they're talking about doing and making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, still keep Joe Burrow around, and sign T. Higgins all at the same time?
I think they could. I just don't think they will.
Ooh, some breaking stuff here from Ricky Logan. You don't. So who are they not going to? Are they going to throw Joe Burrow to the curb? Are they not going to do Chase? Are they not going to do Higgins? What are we going to do here, buddy?
Historically, the Bengals have never paid a second wide receiver. They let Houshmandzadeh go. They had I forget his name, the guy behind AJ Green.
Dickens, maybe? It was...
Yeah, and then you have the perfect situation. You have so much cap space available.
Mm-hmm.
You could sign Chase to his record deal. You could sign Higgins to a almost legit number one contract. I think Burrow's going to restructure. I think they have all the resources to do it. I just don't. I'm just. They don't have a GM. They have a director of player operations. That's what concerns me about the Cincinnati way. But I mean, you have a top three quarterback. You have statistically a number one receiver in the NFL, and Higgins is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. It's just they have everything there to make it happen. It's just, are they?
Right. So, you can go to www.welikesportspc.com and you can look at the article on the NFL salary cap. And there is actually a chart on here. I know because I wrote this article. Heck, on it's a nice article. And it gives you everyone's cap space for the upcoming season. Assuming now all we were told so far was a range for the cap. So we took the median and used that. The Patriots are first. They have $126.7 million in cap space. That's absolutely crazy. And they have their quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So they don't need that. The Raiders are second at 99.7. The Commanders are third. The Arizona Cardinals are fourth. They have 76.5. Then you have the Chargers, the Bears, the Vikings, the Steelers, and then the Bengals. The Bengals actually have 53.1 million in cap space. And like I said, if you want to go to that article and see where your team is at, it is entitled the 2025 NFL salary cap increase is more than expected. You can go and look at that, see where you're at. There's another article there. Baseball has had an off season. Very few people have clicked on that article. Again, written by another sexy stud. Can't remember that guy's name. It's me. So it's some crazy stuff there in baseball this year. It talks about Ricky and his guy. We'll talk about their podcast here in a few moments that they're going to be doing. So they wrote a salary cap article not too long ago. You can check that out as well. And then this one's kind of a follow up to it. We've got AEW wrestling on here. You've got some gambling. You've got there's the rematch for the light heavyweight championship. And then the top one right at the moment, we got a Corbin Burns signing and what that means for the Diamondbacks. So those are all things that you can find right now on www.welikesportspc.com. Again, Ricky is one of the editors for that site for us. We appreciate him and everything that he is doing. So let's imagine for a moment, Ricky, that the Bengals can sign Chase. They can bring T. Higgins back on a long-term contract, and then they can keep Joe Burrow. But how are they going to get a defense? I mean, they had this last year and couldn't even make the playoffs. Why would they think it's going to be any different this coming year?
Statistically, with the Bengals, the way they structure contracts is they usually lean on first-year guarantees. They're going to have to step out of that. They're going to have to be flexible. They can't be the way they have been. They're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to give Higgins more than a 1-year guarantee. If they can split that up and get the cap, like there's not going to be that much cap taken off. They could still go out and maybe have $35 million in cap, if not more, to go get a defense and the draft. It's just, that's a lot to ask. They have a new defensive coordinator. I think that could help. But the defense really kind of played better towards the end of the season. I mean, I know they let them down the first 10 games of the season. But the defense, they're young. They have a couple guys coming back from injury this year. They're going to have DJ Turner back. They're going to have Dax Hill back. Jermaine Pratt's probably going to be gone with a trade. Logan Wilson's going to be back. They have guys, and if they could maybe swing a trade, sign somebody, hit the draft, I think they could be right back to where they have an open window for a Super Bowl contention.
All right. So last question on the Bengals, and we'll jump into MLB here. I didn't prep you with this one, but I'm just going to ask you off the cuff, and everybody that's watching with us live, live here, understand that, I'm doing this before Ricky right off the cuff here. So who in your mind needs to be signed more? If we have to make a choice, I'm going to sign Trey Hendrickson to a long-term deal, or I'm going to sign T. Higgins to a long-term deal, and they're going to be paid about the same. Who are you signing, Rick?
I'm going to sign Higgins.
Wow. See, I would not.
They have that big three. I mean, the only thing that concerns me with Henderson is his age. Higgins is 25, I think.
Yeah, he's younger.
Hendrickson's going to go into his age 30 season this season, so it's not ideal. It's not a deal breaker, but he does have a year left on his contract. I think that could. Trey has said that sign me or trade me, So could they swing a trade and maybe get a second round pick out of him?
And it's possible. It really is. So we'll see. I just really like Trey Hendrickson. In fact, he's the jersey I've got. I usually only do one jersey from every team, and instead of doing the Burrow one, I got the Hendrickson one. He's just a beast, man. I
love Trey.
So I hope they sign him, but maybe I'm just a little impartial on all of that. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you are sticking with us. In fact, everybody's sticking with us. We keep adding people as we go along, like we seem to do every single week. One of our commenters here told us that we're adding people on YouTube as well. You can go over to our YouTube channels, just search at D643 and out. And is spelled A-N-D, not like it is in our. Actually, it's spelled out here in our, because you can see it right there, right? So it's spelled out there as well. So just search that. You'll come across it on YouTube, and you'll be able to do that for us. We'll talk to Ricky about his podcast that he'll be doing with another gentleman here in just a couple moments. So we will get all the information on that as well. So without further ado, let's go to our MLB 4 pitch talk. All right, now before we go into MLB 4 pitch talk, the host of the show forgot something. Imagine that, I know. But he did. So, Ricky, I'm going to put you on the spot again. We're going to celebrate Black History Month, but with football this time, right, as the music kind of plays in the background. So only 3 players ever. I'm going to make you put your hands on your head so you can't be typing on the computer, too. Only 3 players ever, and the other 2 are Marcus Allen and Tiki Barber, have ever reached 10,000 rushing yards, 5,000 receiving yards, and he also turns 52 tomorrow. Do you know what running back we're talking about? The greatest show on turf.
Oh, Dickerson.
That would be Marshall Faulk, sir.
Marshall Faulk.
Marshall Faulk.
Okay, yeah.
So he turns 52 tomorrow. Celebrating Black History Month here on the show. And throwing that up there for our NFL. Again, he's the only person besides Marcus Allen and Tiki Barber to ever rush 10,000 rushing yards, 5,000 receiving yards, and he turns 52 tomorrow. So he's got the birthday part in there as well. And I tell you what, we'll get this out of the way here in just a moment. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to talk about some players switching positions, and we're also going to talk about fantasy baseball and the Cincinnati Reds. But let's get the Black History Month thing out of the way right now before I forget about it again. And let me make you put your thinking cap on for MLB. Now, This was quite a while ago, Ricky. I'm not even sure if you were born when this guy was playing, but we'll kind of put you on the spot and see what happens here. All right, and here it is. This person is the only switch hitter with both 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. Obviously, he's African American. His birthday was just a couple days ago. 500 home runs, 3,000 hits. You know who that might be?
Man.
Like I said, he was probably playing before you were born.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'll give you initials.
Okay.
It's E and M.
What was it you cut out?
It's E and M. So E-M.
Eddie Murray.
Eddie Murray. That's right, buddy. Look at you.
Right.
2 for 3. All right. See, Mitch, I know you're probably watching while you got your little puke bag beside of you or whatever, buddy.
I was there last week.
Better watch out for Ricky here. He's 2 for 3 on these things. All he's got to start doing now is doing this gambling stuff. And I don't know, I may have to look at replacing you. Nah, we love Mitch. He'll be back soon, I'm sure. We just got to get him healthy. All right. So the Cleveland Guardians announced yesterday the passing of Larry Dolan. He bought the Indians in. Oh, let's see. Let's stop that. The 2025 season would have been his 26th year of ownership, and he was 94. So in 1986, I want to give you a fun fact here about the Cleveland Guardians now. So in 1986, he bought the Cleveland Indians from the Jacobs family. The Jacobs family paid $35 million for them in 1986. And in 2000, when the Dolan family bought it, they paid $323 million. So the Jacobs family, in just a few years, turned $35 million to $323 million. Good job by them. Ricky, here's my question for you, at least the first part of this. Why are owners not more known in sports? And is that what an owner should be? Just a guy who's the money only and he stays out of everybody else's business.
It's hard because if you're an owner and you're known, you're probably known for the wrong reasons. Look at like the Reds' sake, the Castellini family. They're known for not spending, but they also don't have the money that other ownership groups have.
Well,
Then you got the Dodgers, who have monopoly money and they can do whatever they want. They can go pay $500 million for a ball boy if they want to. But I feel like I kind of like it when you don't hear about an owner. I think it really, especially if your team's winning, it's kind of a good thing. But I think if you're a fan of your team and you live in the city that your team that you root for, you probably know who your owner is anyway. But I think, I would lean towards I think they should just be off and be quiet. But that's just me.
okay, so let me rephrase the question a little bit, maybe, and use a football analogy here. Would you rather have a Jerry Jones guy who is always meddling into business, or would you rather have an owner who just stands back and says, "Yeah, I'm more like I would say Ken Kendricks that way here in Arizona. He'll write the checks, and he lets Mike Hazen and some of the other guys in that front office do their job." But as a fan, Ricky, which one do you want? Do you want the meddler, or do you want the guy that just stays out of the way of everybody else?
I'd probably lean towards the meddler approach.
All right. See, I would not. But we are. This is a nice show because we're kind of disagreeing, yet we're not throwing punches at each other. So this is good. This is good. Yeah, I don't like the guy who meddles around and everything. If you're the owner, okay, you got money. Great, good job. And I appreciate the fact that you've got money. But you probably don't know anything. You don't know what 643 means when we call ourselves the 643 and out guys. Now, myself and Mitch Middlebrook, who will be back with us next week. Hopefully, and we thank Ricky Logan at It's Ricky Logan is his X account. And you can see him here in just a few weeks. He'll have his own podcast. and we'll talk about that here right before we do our red stuff here at the end of the show. So, um, yeah, I kind of write the check, shut your mouth. There we go. That's that's what I'd rather have. So the Indians, going back to them, or the Guardians, as they're terribly known now. 24 seasons. You like that one? Did you? 24 seasons, 7 American League championship titles, 9 postseason appearances. Would you consider that a winning ownership group that they've had over the last 26 years in Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, as a fan of the team, I would want that. I mean, yeah, you wish for a little bit more, but to get to the cusp of a World Series 7 times in 24 years, that's a fan's dream. It's you want to get that mountaintop, but just to know that you can consistently get there and consistently make the playoffs. They don't spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
They're always bottom 5 in payroll, so they seem to do the international spending and the draft right. So they make the right moves and they do it consistently. So that's really what you want to see.
But I want to talk about this for a second, Ricky. Again, I do this to Mitch all the time too. I'll make all these notes, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? You've said something that sparked something in my brain, so I'm going to go with it, and we just go off the cuff for a few moments.
That's television.
Right? That's what live TV is all about, right? So when and you're 100% right. They don't spend much money. You mentioned earlier that the Dodgers could pay, $500 million for a ball boy, right? Well, the spring training tickets this year for the Dodgers are absolutely outrageous. I'm not paying that price, but they have to because they're spending all this money. So there's a trade-off, right? As a fan, would you rather have your team spend less money and you spend less money on the actual entertainment? You're not spending, $400 for a family of 4 to go watch a ball game, or would you rather know that your team doesn't have as much of a shot to win, but yet it's only going to cost you $200 to go see a game?
I mean, I guess that's just the perks of being in LA. I mean, you have millionaires that can just casually go pay for a baseball game. But I guess as a middle class American, I would say that I would rather my team have more affordable options. But I did see that Baltimore just recently has a value menu food concession plan.
Mhm.
So maybe I might take a $20, $30 increase on a ticket if I'm saving money at the ballpark. So
Okay.
that's a concession, I guess, but I don't want to, take out a loan to go watch a baseball game either.
Right, right. So there's a good part to it and a bad part to it. I mean, it's always been that way. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there at the end of this discussion here. So there are a few players that are changing positions this season. There are actually one, two, three, four, five, or six of them. Mitch and I talked about 2 of them last week, so we'll get those 2 out of the way kind of quick, and then Ricky and I will focus on the other 4. The first one's Mike Trout. He's going from center field to right field. Ricky, what do you think about that transition for Mike Trout quickly?
I just hope that makes him play a full season because he's one of the best to play in our generation.
Wow, that was quick, and I 100% agree. That was a heck of a job by you. That was summed up really nice. That was nice. What about Alex Bregman? It looks like he's going to move from third base to second base with his big contract signing over in Boston. What do you think about Alex Bregman and the mess that's in Boston right
Oh, I think it's a good move. I think Devers is a really good third baseman. So I think that really helps out. That gives him really big flexibility on the defensive side.
now? That's me. That's me hitting the button because you said Devers is a really good third baseman, so I have to go. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to aim at you. He is not a good third baseman, Mr. Logan. He is the worst rated defensive third baseman in the American League.
Okay.
All right. Just one more time. All right.
Offensively.
Okay, offensively, and then I won't slap you anymore. I'll ignore it, all right? Yes, offensively, you're 100% right. But he can do offensive as a DH. But he can do offense anywhere. He doesn't have to play third base. So personally, I don't agree with this move. I think they should put Bregman at third. They should tell Devers to shut his mouth. He's still getting paid a ton of money and DH and like it. And I thought they were going to do that because Alex Cora came out and was like basically said that Devers didn't make the lineup. He did, and now they've kind of backed off on it and everything else. So, like I said, if you want to get into that big debate, Mitch and I did that last week. You can go back to our podcast here on X, or you can also do it on our YouTube account. Just search the 643 and out guys, and you'll find it there on YouTube.
No, I do think that they will change that.
So when you mean
I
no
think
change,
that I think the plan is they're probably gonna give Devers, the confidence that, hey, we're loyal to you, we'll keep you at third. And then he's gonna make an error, and then they're gonna go, hey, now it's Bregman's turn.
okay. And I could see that happen. And a little more of a diplomatic solution to it instead of just, you know, unlike I did to you. We don't want to just, slap people in the face. We want to do it a little more diplomatically, right? Now I'm having fun with all my little gadgets over here. So. All right, so we covered Mike Trout. We covered Alex Bregman. Let's look at the first new one that myself and Mitch didn't cover last week, but Ricky and I are going to cover this week. How about Mookie Betts, one of the better right fielders in baseball, and now he's going to move to shortstop full time. How do you think that's going to go, Rick?
He played second a little bit last year too, so I think he's showing how flexible he is and how willing he is too. So I think that's a good move. I think he's athletic enough to make it work.
Well, the question is not whether he's athletic enough. Is that what you want? Do you want your star player to move all over the place? I mean, usually a utility guy is there for defense only, or if he gives you some offense, great. But they depend on Mookie Betts for a lot more than just his slick fielding. And I'm not sure if the move for him to go shortstop / second, and then maybe play a little bit of right field and all these kinds of things is the best for the Dodgers. Now, not that I care what's the best for the Dodgers necessarily, but I do like Mookie Betts. So I don't know. I'm not sure if it's the best move.
Yeah, my concern with that is his age. He's 32, age 32 season. I think he turns 33 this year. So you have an aging player in an athletic position. I would like to see him if he's going to move somewhere, maybe a corner spot or stay in right field.
Okay, and I like that. I really do. I think that's the best for Mookie Betts. But I think him moving to shortstop is probably the best for the Dodgers. So he's trying to be a team player, is what I can kind of see from all this. And we'll see how it all works out for him. How about Jazz Chisholm, New York Yankees? You got Gleyber Torres now, who is not with the Yankees anymore. So that leaves second base open, and Chisholm is going to go from third to second. How do you think that transition is going to work for Jazz?
I think it'll work out well. He played second originally in Miami, and then he moved to center field, and then he played some third last year at New York. I think he's good enough. I'm not sure about infield ability. I don't think he was a great defender, but I think with their lineup, I think they can mask it.
And then, when he was at Florida, he played center field, for God's sake. He was out there. He did play some second base. And if you look at defensive runs saved and things like that, those type of metrics, he is actually best at second base. He's better at second than he was in center, and he's also better at second than he was at third last year. Next to the last guy that we're going to look at here is a guy that both of us probably paid a lot of attention to last year. He was involved in a trade this year, but he has never been the greatest at second base. He just had a nice bat, and he is a good leader. But now he's going to the Kansas City Royals, and he's moving from second base to right field, and that guy is Jonathan India. So, Ricky, what about Jonathan India's move from second base to right field in the Powder Blues?
I love it, honestly. I think if McClain was healthy last year in Cincinnati, I think he would have played out in the outfield last year for the Reds. I think uh, Kansas City's going to really enjoy his leadership, and he's athletic, but he's not overly athletic. He has a decent arm. He was a third baseman in college, so he's got an arm that translates to the outfield. I don't know about your corner throws, but I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move for him and for Kansas City.
So I'm hoping that you'll know the answer to this. Where was Jonathan India a third baseman at? What college, sir?
University of Florida.
Yes, I believe you said earlier. Well, now, are you a Miami guy or a University of Florida guy?
I am a Miami guy. My niece is a Florida fan through and
Oh,
through.
sorry. I just stabbed you in the heart. I apologize. Maybe the most famous guy on this list is going to move from second base to left field. Not one of my favorite guys because of what happened to him and his team a few years ago. That one of those things that I just really just can't get out of my mind. Every time I see him, it's what I think about. But Jose Altuve is going to move from second base to left field. Now, we're talking about this for a couple different reasons. How are these transitions going to work? And then you've also got to think about it, Ricky. I don't know if you play a lot of fantasy baseball or not, but a lot of these guys are going to become eligible at more than one position. So I think these guys are pretty good to get on your fantasy roster, and those guys would be Trout, Bregman, Betts, Chisholm, India, and then of course we'll talk here at the end about the shift from second base to left field by Jose Altuve. How do you think that's going to go for him?
It's a mixed bag, Someone at his stature moving to an outfield spot, it's tough. I think if there's anybody that could do it, it would be him. But he's was a pretty good second baseman for a long time. But it just sucks, seeing guys get older and have to transition the way they have to. I think for Houston's sake, it makes the most sense. I just don't know if Jose Altuve is the right guy to do that too.
All right. So, as far as let's look at it from a fantasy baseball perspective, Ricky, I'm gonna tell you that you've got to choose one. If you got to choose one of these guys for their versatility and for what they would mean to your fantasy football or excuse me fantasy baseball team, would you choose Trout, Bregman, Betts, Chisholm, India, or Altuve? Who would you lean on?
Betts.
Okay, so why would
I
you lean?
love he's so flexible defensively, and he's probably the best offensive player other than Trout. The only thing that worries me about Trout's his health. Trout, if he's healthy, he's the best player in the game still. When is the last time he's played a full season? It's been at least a couple years. But when he does, he hits 330. He hits almost 40 home runs or more. He's going to have 100 runs batted in. But it's just being on the field. So I would probably take Mookie Betts off that list.
All right. And then here's another part of the fantasy baseball thing we're going to look at as our third pitch. We've already done the first pitch, which was Larry Dolan, and then we talked about general managers in general. We just looked at 6 different players who are going to be changing positions in the upcoming season and what that means as far as they and their team, and also what it means to you and I as we pick our fantasy baseball teams, which, by the way, we'll be having a fantasy baseball announcement here for www.welikesports.pc here before long. One of the people who is, I believe, still with us is going to be doing some trophies and stuff for us, I believe. So we're gonna have some things to be able to reward some of our people with who get on some of these fantasy teams and things with us this year. Here we go. TC, I know who TC is. TC says Betts. He agrees with you. He would choose Mookie Betts as well. So you're not the only one, sir. You got some people out there who are going to do the same thing. My wife just came home. I can hear it. So the dog may bark a little in the background, but it'll be okay. She's not going to bite any of you, so don't worry about it. Shoot. All right. So we're going to look at fantasy baseball. We said one factor to know about 3 AL teams. And here it is. I didn't put all these things in the notes, Ricky, so I'm going to again, one of those things that I'm just going to kind of throw at you. The the one factor to know about these about these three Major League Baseball teams is each one of these teams is having their stadium reconstructed, and we'll look at all three of these teams. The first one is the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles are actually moving in their left field wall to overcorrect it when they moved it back in 2022. So they're trying to find this kind of happy medium between there. The new wall won't be as shallow, and the dimensions could have a real impact as the ball that was moved back has prevented. You ready for this? Prevented 196 home runs over the past 3 years on the team as a whole. So
Man,
you're going to get a guy like Ryan Mountcastle who lost 11 home runs just last year alone because of the dimensions of that ballpark. So that's going to be a big win for right-handed bats in Baltimore. So with something like that, is that going to get you to maybe change the way that you look at your fantasy baseball this year, Ricky?
yeah. I mean, if you're looking at stats and stuff like that, I mean, Tampa's situation's kind of scary because they might even leave the city, but they, yeah. I mean, you have to look at who they have. Baltimore's got a really good lineup. I love a lot of their guys on their team. Tampa seems to always do it right. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And then, Oakland, for as bad as they've been the last couple of years, they've spent money this year. They've locked up some guys that are key pieces to the organization.
Mhm.
And Oakland has a good power lineup. I think that the Coliseum kind of held some guys back. So yeah, I mean, especially with Baltimore moving their fence, I think that's going to be key for a lot of guys.
Right. You got to remember too. Some kind of outliers in Baltimore. They just added Tyler O'Neill, a big time home run hitter, big slugger guy. That should help him. It should help Jordan Westberg, their second baseman, and then it will also benefit Adley Rutschman. So those are a few guys that you may want to look at as far as fantasy goes that you may want to add just simply because of them moving the fence. And as you mentioned, Ricky, the Rays are moving to the Yankee spring training facility. It's called Steinbrenner Field. Steinbrenner Field actually mimics the dimensions of Yankee Stadium, which I didn't know until I was researching all of this. So the Rays are moving from an extreme pitcher's ballpark to what is virtually Yankee Stadium, and they're going to be there in warmer weather. So not only does it boost their hitters, but I also think it takes their pitchers down a notch or two. So that's a second part of this to look at, not only the hitters but the pitchers as well. And the big guy who's probably going to win is going to be Brandon Lowe. I'll give you that steal in your fantasy drafts here. He's a major bounce back candidate as it is. Lowe has hit 25 of his 32 career home runs on the road, and his slugging percentage has dropped nearly 100 points since he went to Tropicana Field. So I'm sure he doesn't want to hit Tropicana Field anymore. He'd be just fine hitting over at Steinbrenner Field. And I think if you can get him, especially in a later round or a middle round, something like that, Brandon Lowe would be a great pickup for you. Anything you want to talk about as far as Tampa Bay, Rick, or you just want to move on to Oakland?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to Oakland.
All right, let's go ahead and go to Oakland, he says. That's fantastic. As you know, the A's are going to be putting a new stadium out in Vegas. Mitch and I said last week that if the AAA World Series is going to be played in Vegas this year like it has been the last few years, one of our goals is to go out there on a trip and go to Vegas and see that. And then maybe we'll slip a couple hard hats on and see if we can get inside the new building that's going to be done over there for Oakland as well. We'll take some selfie shots and stuff, and we'll put them up. So it'll be a good time. But so they're going to Suter Health Park is what it's called there. That's the stadium that the AAA team of the Giants has. They're going to share that stadium with them. So you have to look at Brent Rooker. The Athletics are moving to a smaller park again, much warmer weather. So their hitters get a fantasy bump. Here's Rooker's stats. Rooker had the fourth highest weighted runs created plus. If you ever see WRC plus, that's what that is, weighted runs created plus. It was 171. And he had the fourth most homers, 24 of him, and the third most RBIs, 66. So he had 39 home runs last year. He hit 24 of them on the road. He had, it doesn't show me the RBIs, but he had 66 RBIs on the road last season. And now he's moving to a smaller ballpark that has less foul territory, and he's going to be able to smash the ball. Brent Rooker for me is a must-have in your fantasy drafts. And I'll give you a sleeper, Zach Geloff from the Oakland Athletics too. So both of those you should be looking at when you're looking at fantasy drafts, and you should be taking advantage of those moves. Again, that was one factor to know about three teams. So all three of those teams are having their fields redone, and some of them it hurts, some of them it helps. But you should know which ones it hurts and helps as far as that part goes. Ricky, I'll give you a minute. You want to? I know I talked a lot, so go ahead. Yeah, look at you smile over there.
I was just going to say I have a sleeper for fantasy for Oakland would be Lawrence Butler.
Lawrence Butler. You know what? I did not think about Lawrence Butler. So why do you think he's such a sleeper just by moving parts?
He's a solid power hitter. If I remember correctly, when they played the Reds back in August, I'm pretty sure he hit 4 home runs that series, and I think every hit he had was extra bases. It felt like. So he's a solid power, decent speed guy. He's going to give you your stolen bases. I want to say he's an outfielder. Yeah, he's a right fielder. He throws right, bats left-handed. So he's that sneaky. He's 24 years old. Like he's bound to break out.
And it could be this year. And if he does, he'll break out big there in that AAA stadium. So I agree with you. I like that pick a lot, buddy. Good job by you. Okay, so we got two things that I want to talk about. You know one, you don't know the other one. So I'm going to do the one you don't know, and then we'll do the one that has the Reds part to it here. I haven't quite figured out how to put video up on this screen yet. I know there's a way to do it, but the old man over here, the get off my lawn guy that's not real technologically advanced, might take him a few more weeks to figure it all out, right? But you can on our system. I would put this up if I had it. I'm staring at it on the other computer. So the Cubs today brought Sammy Sosa back. And I've got a picture of him here. It's actually a video of him talking to some of the young guys in the dugout. And, they're doing hand motions and all that. There's no audio to it, so you can't tell what they're saying. But here's what I want to ask you, Ricky. And we're both Reds fans. We don't really like the Cubs, or at least I don't. I don't like the Cardinals. I'd rather, stomp on them than talk about them. But but we all know what Sammy did. A cork bat. We're pretty sure, we can't really prove it, we're pretty sure he was all jacked up on something that wasn't Mountain Dew while he was hitting a bunch of home runs over the fence, right? So if you're the Chicago Cubs and you're trying to teach these young kids how to play the game of baseball, do you like the idea of bringing essentially, here we go, Cubs fans, corner, right-hand corner, top, click on the comments and let me hear them. Are you going to bring a cheater back into your locker room to teach these young kids, Ricky?
Well, my only defense, and I don't agree with PEDs or any of that stuff, but you still have to have phenomenal hand-eye coordination. And I think even if he wasn't using, I still think he hits 40. I just think, yeah, I think he would make a good hitting. I don't know about hitting coach, but a good teacher on fundamentals of swinging the bat. But I'm not sure if it's the best look. I know Miami brought in Barry Bonds a few years ago, and I don't think it really worked out. But if there's one guy that could swing a bat that I would want to have as a hitting coach, it would be Joey Votto. I just he wouldn't go to the Cubs for anything. He hates the Cubs as much as I do.
Right. I just don't know if that's the right guy. And you see Harrison there saying if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. But I don't know. That's not my philosophy. So um, plus, I can't read it yet. Plus, who cares about PEDs anymore? Let them go for it. No, no. See, I'm not going to agree with either one of those things. I don't like cheaters, and I'd rather play the game respectfully and competition wise instead of that. So I'm just not sure if that's the guy that I'd want to bring. It'd be like bringing Barry Bonds back in. It'd be like bringing Mark McGuire in. I went to a spring training game once just to heckle Mark McGuire the entire game. I literally bought really nice tickets and sat right behind the dugout. He took it like a champ. He just kept turning around and staring at me. But I don't like any of those PED guys. It's just my own personal opinion. And if I was the Cubs, I wouldn't be bringing back Sammy Sosa to teach my young kids anything. Now, as you said, then can he still hit home runs? Does he know how to hit the baseball? And he absolutely does. And even in the video that it shows, in fact, I'll put this up on our X page here right now. Give me a second to hit the button, and I will like it and share it. You can go over to at the 643 and out pod, and it's right there for you. You can see it. So if everyone's on them, it's fair. Harrison, stop it. Not everybody's on these. In fact, I would say there's a small percentage of people who are on them. And yes, steroid doesn't help you hit the ball any harder, any faster, anything like that. What it does help you do is recover a lot faster. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse too much, but I'll let you have the last word in on this, Ricky. What do you think about the Cubs bringing in Sammy Sosa? Good move, bad move, or indifferent?
I'd probably lean towards indifferent, but I mean, I think enough time has passed to where I think some people can move on. I generally don't care. I loved watching him hit home runs and doing that hop. It was just so much fun to watch. But I hate the Cubs, so I'd probably lean towards indifferent, slightly towards not a good look.
All right, let's do our last thing here. Ricky, thank you very much for being on with us. Talk to us about who your co-host is going to be, what your podcast name is, and when it's going to appear for everyone to be able to view sometime soon. Talk about that for a minute, Ricky.
Yeah, we're gonna do our podcast is gonna be called Red Hot Reds. We're gonna talk mostly about the Cincinnati Reds. We might sprinkle in some general topics every once in a while. It's gonna be with Roger Straz. He writes on Substack at Local Sports Matter. He's very good at what he does, and
Yes,
we're both local Cincinnati guys, and we both love our teams, and it's going to be kind of like a Locked On Reds, Locked On Sports style, where we're going to just have a subject and just lay it out.
all right. And then on March 11th, here at the 643 and out guys, we're doing the Sportz Truth right now. That's what you're watching and listening to. We are going to have both Ricky and his co-host on here to show you some things. We're going to go over a few of the topics that they'll discuss. We're going to promote them really heavily here because I like both guys. So we're going to help them out as much as we can. And I hope you guys tune into their show. It'll be out, probably 2-3 weeks, Rick?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, we're working with the Ohio Sports Talks guys, Jordan and Doug. They're being a really big hand on this too, and they're good guys. I love their show. So really, really huge thanks to them for helping us out with this too, and you as well.
Oh, no problem. No problem whatsoever, buddy. You've helped us a lot with our site, and TC agrees. Good job tonight, Ricky. Especially, he didn't have very much time to prepare either. So he was kind of thrust into this as Mitch got sick on us. So I decided to give Ricky a call and said, "Hey, can you do this?" And he says yes. Now it's almost 8:00 here in Arizona. You got to remember too, it's almost 10:00 in Cincinnati, Ohio. What's the weather like in Cincinnati right now, by the way, Ricky? Is it snowing still?
No, it actually warmed up. It was about almost 60 today. It's been, I think they said, below average temperatures for the last 27 days or something.
Yeah, and that's why I live in Arizona.
Yeah.
Used to live there. You don't shovel sunshine, sir. It's what they say out here, buddy. So,
Yeah.
all right. Plus, you don't have spring training baseball like we do. But like I said, I invited you. You can come out whenever you want, man. You basically have a free hotel here at the house. You can stay here with us, and we'll go do some things, whether it be this year or one of the upcoming years. So I look
I'll,
forward to that happening. Here's
I'll
our
definitely
last
take
thing
you
of
up
the
on that.
day. Oh, no problem, sir. No problem at all. So, how do the Reds avoid being the Blue Jays with Vlad, with their homegrown superstar, Ellie De La Cruz? And nobody's really talking about this yet because Ellie is, only in his second season, and of course Vlad is been more than that. I believe. Let's see. I have everything pulled up over here on the other computer. Let's see here. He has 5 years of service time, and this is going to be his final year in Toronto. Looks like he's going to walk away, and the Blue Jays are going to get nothing. The last thing I want to see happen with the Reds and Ellie De La Cruz, as a Reds fan, is for Ellie to be here for 5 years and then walk away, and the Reds get nothing. So, Mr. Logan, how can the Reds avoid being the Toronto Blue Jays?
Blank check.
Will they do that though?
Blank check. That's all. I post that picture on X 3 or 4 times a year. It's a blank check with Bob Castellini's name on it. It's the only way. I mean, will he take a hometown discount? I'd say probably not. His agent Scott Boras, so it's not looking good. But if you could sign him, let's just say 12 years, 340, do you think he'd take it?
See, I was getting ready to look up Joey Votto's contract. I was trying to remember exactly what it was.
I think it was 275, I think. Roughly.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find it here. I'm stalling for a second, but I'm scrolling down. So it's of course I'm on Baseball Reference here. I give them a little plug. I love this site. I got to go all the way down to the end to get it. So in his Reds career, okay, how many seasons? Let's see. He went to his age 40, and they paid him a total of $260 million for all of those seasons. 1, 2, 3, 6, 24, 40. So 16 seasons, roughly at $260 million. Is it going to take more than that to sign Ellie De La Cruz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think that was much of a question, but okay, I had to throw that out there. So we get a barometer as to where to start, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get 5 years of Ellie no matter what, unless you trade him, which I think people would riot if that happened.
Yeah.
But at the same point, do you want them paying him Juan Soto money? I don't think there's any one player in baseball worth that kind of money, even if it is Ellie De La Cruz.
It's hard because the Castellini family, as the majority owner of the organization, they do only own, I believe it's like 30%. They have the other 70% are a bunch of different small, like the Weiler Group and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they have funding from outside minority ownership. It's just, you have one of, if not the poorest owner in baseball, deemed, with this generational player that could be the face of the sport. Like that alone will bring in people. Like, I mean, when he got called up, he had a bobblehead night last year. It was on like a Tuesday, and they sold out. It was like 46,000 people. He brings in crowds that Reds have never seen before, and if they can keep that core together with who they have, I mean, I hate to say it, but they have a big red machine type lineup if they pan out.
Ricky, calm down, buddy. Calm down. I mean, personally, and I'm going to say this, and it might get ridiculed for it, but I've been saying this from the beginning. I think that Matt McLean is the guy that you signed. I think Tyler Stevenson right now is the guy that you sign. I think you then go to. I don't really know if I want to sign Nick Lodolo long term yet. Um, and he needs to sign a
Lodolo
few more
worries
autographs, by the way, before I'll jump on the Nick Lodolo bandwagon here. I've been trying to get that guy to sign something for me for years. Um, I have. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I think you sign some of these smaller guys first because the Reds don't have any huge contracts right now,
Yeah,
none
they got
whatsoever.
nothing.
And I understand their total payroll was like 103, 105 million, depends on which place you go and look at, and do you consider the dead cap type stuff, and where are you getting all your money flow from? I get it; it can be a little subjective, but in my mind, you sign some of those smaller guys first to larger contracts. I would not sign Marte. I would concentrate on Stevenson, McLean, and Friedel. Get your defense up front, up the middle, and then start signing some of these fringe guys. I mean, Marte hasn't proven a darn thing to me yet. I'm not sure about the Candelario move. I didn't really like it when they did it last year, but we'll see how it all pans out. Maybe he'll make a liar out of me this season. I hope he does. Um, I'm not sure if Will Benson's the answer. I'm not sure if Austin Hayes is the answer, even though he hit 2 mammoth home runs in the spring training game against the Dodgers yesterday. So, but you've got to sign Ellie. It's just how much do you sign him for? And so I want to look at this two different ways, Ricky. Before we go, right? I know we're a little over time here, and I apologize for keeping you past a little bit here. Would you rather pay? So if let's say the average ticket price is $50 to get in to see a Reds game. If I tell you I'm going to sign Ellie De La Cruz to a 10-year contract, but I'm going to have to raise the ticket prices to $75 on average, as a Reds fan who's going to pay that price? I'm not. I live in Arizona. I'm going to watch them on MLB.TV, right? So I'm not going to pay that price. You are. That's where you live. Are you okay paying a higher price as long as Ellie's there for the next 10 years?
If he's the only guy being signed, no.
Okay.
But if they can work out, how the Dodgers did with Ohtani, do deferred money, and we're paying this guy till he's 150. I mean, I'm okay. I think I would be okay with it. $25. It's an extra $100 for my family to go.
Right.
It hurts. I might not go to as many games, but I'll go to at least one or two.
Yeah, but is that going to even out though? If they're going to raise the ticket, okay. So the whole reason that you do this, and this is the second part of this equation that I wanted to talk about, right? You even said it. Ellie De La Cruz attracts people, but if they have to raise the prices and then it doesn't attract as many people after they raise the prices, doesn't that kind of contradict each other? And you're not really making any more money off your big guy that you just signed to some huge. It's probably going to be like, I don't know, 8 to 10 years at $300 to $350 million in total. What do you do then if you're the Reds? Do you trade him and let him go? Or, I mean, they're going to have a big decision, just like Toronto. Everybody's yelling at Toronto right now, like, he's your homegrown guy. You're screwing this up. And I don't want this to be the Reds in 4 years. And then we're crying when we're talking about this at that.
Yeah, I mean, Ellie, if the first arbitration is rough,
Mm-hmm.
the best way to go around it would be to trade him with multiple years of team control. You're going to get the most out of him. I hate talking about trading this guy, but
Yeah, but it's a realistic possibility.
When I'm talking capital IF, if you're trading this guy, you are getting a king's ransom. I'm saying I want your team's top 5 prospects, and I want a guy on your team that's got team control.
All right.
Is it worth that?
Well, is the other team going to be willing to give that up for Ellie De La Cruz and then have to pay him $300 million?
I'd name 3 teams that would do it, and I just don't want to see him go there.
Well, I understand, but there's realistically there's only what 3. I would say there's 5 teams max that can probably do that. Give up top prospects and pay Ellie De La Cruz $300 million. So the market is limited. So the best thing for the Reds to do is sign him to a contract now. Um, I was looking at Vlad. So Vlad got 7.9 million his first year of arbitration. Then it went to 14.5 million and 19.9 million in this season in the 20. Just to give you some context here, right? This season, 2025, he's making $28.5 million this season. That's like the entire infield for the Reds right now.
That's like the entire infield plus a couple pitchers.
Yeah. So, they're going to be in a dilemma, and I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they solve this dilemma before it's all said and done. But as you're saying, if you sign Ellie, he could be the face of baseball. He could be Shohei Ohtani. He could be, what I'm trying to think, he could be Mike Trout 5 years ago. And that means something, right? That means millions of dollars for the Reds or for whatever team he ends up signing. So I don't want to drag this conversation out, but like I said, I think it's a fascinating thing. Me personally, I'd rather see them sign a few of the smaller guys first, and then we go after Ellie probably either his first or second year of arbitration. And if they realize that he's going to be too much money, then they trade him at that point when he's still got a couple years of control left.
So real quick, I just pulled up MLB's most popular jerseys of 2024, and Ellie's number 14.
Of 2024.
Yeah, of just this past season.
Okay.
And the only guys, all the guys ahead of him are massive contracts. So, I mean, that's what we're going to look at.
Yeah,
you got Trey Turner's just above him. You got Vlad Guerrero's 12, Corey Seager 11, Arenado 10, Tatis 9, Soto 7, Judge is 3, and Ohtani's 1. Yeah. So all these guys are making $300 million plus.
But at the same point, and I want to make this one, and then I'm gonna put the music on in the background that says it's about time to go because it is here, right? But I want to also say this: you're right. And how would it feel as a Reds fan, as we start playing our epic bagpipe song in the background here? How would it feel as a Reds fan to be able to say, Ellie De La Cruz is my shortstop?
The greatest feeling in the world.
It's interesting. All right, buddy. Hey, thank you very much, Ricky. Tell us your X account real quick. Where can they find you at, bud?
Yeah, find me on X at it's Ricky Logan. I post mostly Reds. I post some MLB, and I dabble in some other sports as well. So.
All right, and I'm sure he'll follow back everybody who follows him first, just like the rest of us do. We thank Ricky for being on here, especially with such short notice. I'm sure Mitch will be back next week. As he's just feeling a little under the weather today, he'll be back with us and be able to talk sports with us as well. So you have been listening to the Sportz Truth, SPORTZ, because the website that we represent, www.welikesports, is also spelled with a Z. So welikesportspc.com. You can find myself and Ricky on that particular website. Each of us write and each of us edit for that website. We've had a great show here today. Thank you guys all for staying with us. Once again, you can find us on YouTube. I'll post this up to our Facebook account here shortly, and you'll be able to get us in multiple different platforms as well. So thank you guys very much. Ricky, I'll give you a few seconds. Give us some last thoughts, and then we'll serenade everybody at the end like we always do. Go ahead, Rick.
Blank check.
Blank check. That's all he's saying tonight. All right. So like we say, every time that we go off the air here, the only thing that's fair in life, ladies and gentlemen, is a baseball hit between the third and first base line. Good evening, everyone.